This is everything that I made in my first year of sewing, quite obsessively. Let's start off with a backstory of how I even got into this. So my name is Jane and I'm in college. I study environmental science, French, and anthropology, none of which are really related to each other, let alone to sewing. Last year, the year before last, I sewed a dress, and this is the dress. It was chaotic and messy, and I really just wanted to create something that I'd had in my head, and I used my mom's sewing machine. I've kind of always known how to use a sewing machine. Really, this isn't my first year sewing. However, it was my first time taking the time to teach myself how to do things the right way. So this dress, very messy. The inside of it, I'm not even gonna show you. It's so messy. I still wear it sometimes, but like not the way to do things. So I made this dress and then I moved to Paris for 5 months. And when I was in Paris, I saw all of these fabulous clothes and I could not afford them, or I didn't want to afford them, whatever. So I knew that when I got back to the States, I wanted to learn how to sew my own clothes. My mom for Christmas, if she could have my grandmother's sewing machine serviced. Now this machine, it's a new home, it's from the 80s, and I just thought, that'll be relatively inexpensive and a good machine to start with. It's still a good machine, it's held up this long. But for Christmas, she actually gave me her Pfaff, which is a really nice machine. I don't know the exact model, but I pretty much, once I had that sewing machine, I went to town. I sewed all the time, every single day. I was just so obsessed with it from the get-go. And in May, after 4 months of using that machine, it actually gave out on me, and I took it to the service shop and they were like, yeah, the computer's out. And so I was like, well, what do I do? It only sews backwards. And they were like, you could maybe take it to Memphis. I don't live in Memphis. So I went that very same day and bought a Singer Heavy Duty. And since then I've been using the Singer Heavy Duty. It works great for me. I have a few issues, but I think it's just because I use it all of the time. So maybe one day I'll get an industrial machine, but for now I use a Singer Heavy Duty, and I also have a serger. I have a brother serger. I don't know the exact model, but I'll link all that below. I guess this is just a disclaimer. I am in college. I am in college full-time. I'm graduating in May of 2025 though, so that's exciting. I also worked full-time this summer as an intern with a big company, and so I've had other things going on in my life, as everybody does. So just a disclaimer, I don't sew full-time, but I kind of wanted to put this video online just to show you guys, A, what I've been up to, because I think it's super fascinating knowing what people's projects are, how they came up with the ideas for the projects, etc., etc. Also kind of shows how much progress you could make in just 1 year of sewing. So yeah, with that, let's get started. We're gonna go in chronological order, and this is not just garments, but it's mostly garments. Alrighty, let's hope that my camera roll is in good order, because that's what I'm relying on for this video. The very first thing that I made this year was this bow bag. I saw a couple of these on Pinterest that I just loved, and I bought this dark blue curtain from Goodwill, and then I used a pillowcase for the actual bag part. And what's great about this is the dark blue is just such a good contrasting color to add to my outfits. I wear this one all of the time, still love it. Next project was my heart top. I can't believe I started with this project. This was honestly such a waste of time, but that's okay. So I made this heart top. I used a vintage sewing pattern and kind of did my own tweaks, and it took me a long time to figure this out. I actually sprayed the edges of my hearts with heavy duty spray on starch. Then I ironed all of the hearts, the edges under, and then I sewed like a straight stitch around them. It took forever. I would never do that again. I'm actually making some more of these right now. I'm just doing a zigzag stitch. That's so much easier. Super cute. I still wear this. I still get a lot of compliments on it, but my next project was my ladybug skirt. So I found this ladybug fabric at Goodwill, and I actually sewed flowers and ladybugs onto this 3-tiered skirt. This is a really great project for beginners because it's literally just straight lines that you gather. And then I ended up going back and adding a petticoat because I wanted it to be super, super full. Next, I made these jeans, these patchwork jeans. I had already put a few patches in them because I don't really like holes in my jeans. It's just like a particular thing that I don't really like. But then I went back and just totally went crazy on them. So these are cool. I don't really love them anymore. I think I would prefer that if all the patches were like more uniform, like just hearts or just flowers, but that's okay. You live and you learn. Next, I made this very simple gathered dress. This was in March. I went down to Clarksdale for spring break with my fiance, and I wore this dress, and it felt so fun. It was very simple to make, and I really like the colors in it. My next project was this blue shirt-waist dress. So I found this, I think it was already a dress from Goodwill, and I just pretty much made it my size. And so I added different panels, pretty simple project, but I like the way it turned out. I haven't worn it a whole lot, but it's still pretty cute. However, I made a ladybug bag to go along with this whole ladybug theme. My ladybug bag is actually a gentleman bug because, you have the ladybugs, but what about their male counterparts? So I made this gentleman bug bag. It was my finest embroidery work to date, if I do say so. And just super fun. I love this. I wear it all the time. I want to make more. I feel like just more weird, funky animal bags. I don't know. But also maybe different things other than bags, not just bags. Okay, so I lived in the part of the country where totality was going to happen for the solar eclipse. And for some reason, I just needed to make something that was really funky for that. So I made this patchwork dress. This was crazy. I don't know where this idea came from, but I made all of these different tiles, I guess you could say, from different colors, all super contrasting colors. I put them all together and then I quilted this dress with like super wavy lines, and I wore it on the eclipse, and it's just so crazy. Still one of my most favorite projects to date. But next I made this dress, and I call it the Clark style dress just because I was like really into the whole Delta vibes at that time. But it has 8 panels on the bottom, and then there's a bust panel, which I got this really great cotton from a store in New Orleans to make that. Yeah, this is very short and very small on me. Like, I wanted it to be that way, but it also reminds me of the dress that she wears in 13 going on 30. Super fun though. It's not really in my comfort zone to wear on the daily, but I do really like it, and it fit me really well, which was like good for me to make something that was tight fitting. So I'm a little conflicted if I should be including like fails in this video. I'll include a little bit, just like a brief whatever, we'll go over it. So I tried to make this wavy dress. Looks terrible. Let's not talk about it. Next, I made this black and white patchwork bag. Also not really my thing. I don't know. I was going for like this. There's this TikToker that I like. She wears these huge saddlebags, I want to say. It's like a huge bag that goes across one shoulder. That was the vibe. This is way too small. I also was really into patchwork, as I still am, but really, really into patchwork. And I don't think that like this black and white went the best for that. But anyway, okay, next project. Fabulous. Love it. It's so good. So there's a technique that I've seen online in different places. You put an organza curtain over scraps, and then it's a good way to like use up your scraps. They look really uniform underneath this one color. It's just fabulous. So I made this dress. Now I love this dress. It's like a Barbie princess medieval. I don't know. I put beads along the top of it, and the sleeves are just the organza. Anyway, I think it's fabulous. Okay, I guess this month was kind of smash hits for me, because I also have this dress. I call this the Nancy dress because it's kind of inspired by Nancy Wheeler. Is that her name from Stranger Things? I love her. And I made this dress. It's got a very low back, funky waist. So I wanted a low waist, but I wanted to do something weird. So I did a triangle. And overall, I just like it. I self-drafted this. It fits me really well. I think my fabric choice was also like top notch. So overall, one of my favorite dresses I've made to date. We have another fail. Roberts Wood. They make the coolest patterns. I actually got a YouTube video about making this dress, this exact same dress, if you're interested. But I first made it last May when I moved to Arizona. It was just like a simple make, which I know that Roberts Wood's patterns are very complex. I don't mean to say like, oh, it's just a simple make, but like it was pretty simple in comparison to the projects that I've been doing. It's a pattern for one. You don't have to self-draft anything. So I used 7 fabrics instead of 5 like you're supposed to. And I should have just stuck with the pattern. So I'm even gonna give this to my friend. I still have it, but I don't really like it. Then I made this, I guess you could say patchwork, this like square dress. I don't know. This is just like reminds me of the Wild West. It's got off the shoulder neckline, gathered neckline, some ruffles. Very fun. I don't know. It fits the vibe of like Tucson. I wore this in Tucson a couple weekends. I think I wore this in Phoenix too. So yeah, next project was this matching set. I don't wear this very much, but I think it's super cute. I had this red tablecloth, the most tablecloth you're ever gonna find. Red and white gingham, are you kidding me? But I found this and I made this set. It's a shirt with puff sleeves, an elastic gathered bottom of it. What do you call the bottom of a shirt? Anyway, and the skirt has this fabulous vertical waist, which I love. If you can't tell, I'm really into low waist. Basically everything 80s is always gonna be an inspiration for me. Now this next thing is kind of random. You're probably gonna think like, why is this your favorite thing? But I made this shirt and I love the boxy off the shoulder fit for a shirt or a dress. I just go back to this cut time and time again. And I made this shirt out of an old Eddie Bauer shirt that I got at Goodwill, and I love it. I love the purple. I love everything about it. It's so good. I initially made it with ties in the back, and then I went back and added buttons because I didn't like the ties. This year, by the way, it was great because as I didn't really take sewing very seriously, I'm still in school, but I'm trying to take sewing a little bit more seriously and hopefully make a career out of this possibly. But until that happens, I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I still hope to have fun with it. But I made this suit because I was trying to push myself and make something, new that I haven't done before, which would be pants. So I used this suit pattern that I got at an antique mall, except it was like 6 sizes too big for me. I think the waist was literally like 10 inches bigger than my waist. And I don't know why I thought to myself like, oh, that's not a big deal. It was a big deal. It didn't fit. I ended up basically self-drafting this, but the pants are a little bit funky. Although for some reason I
like wore these a week ago and they fit fine. Like I love them. So it just took me 6 months to go to the gym a little bit more before they fit right. But yeah, I really like it now. The jacket, I don't like the jacket so much because it's such a thick material when you've got your scraps, your cotton, and your organza that there's just so much going on there. Ooh, yellow flower top. Okay, I remember this. I think it was a Sunday afternoon. I was just sitting in my room and I was like, what do I want to make? I have absolutely no idea. So I just started putting together all my yellow fabric. And then I was like, well, I think this could use some blue flowers. So then I just started putting blue flowers onto it. And then I was like, I need some beads. So I put some beads on it. Regardless, we ended up with this top, which, by the way, the photos of this are like, chef's kiss. My boyfriend took these, or my fiance. We were in Sedona, and I really like this shirt. I think it's fun. Very cool. I'm just going to go ahead and mention this. Honorable mention, overalls. So I am a big overalls person, or I used to be. I'm kind of like backing off of that a little bit, but I have this pair of overalls, and I've slowly but surely been adding patches to it for years. So I'll just put a photo here. I continued to add patches to this pair of overalls this year. Next up was another self-drafted low-waisted dress, the usual, you know. And this was made out of pink gingham, and I actually made a shirt for my fiance out of this as well at this time. I self-drafted each of these, the dress and the shirt. They go together. They're really fun. I like the dress. I cut the dress too short, and I didn't like the hemline for a long time. It made me feel like a tulip turned upside down at the way it hit me at the knees. But anyway, I like it now. It's around this time, using the same pattern that I used to make that dress, I made this shirt, which I called the jellyfish top because it kind of reminds me of a jellyfish. There's a yellow eyelet cotton underneath a blue organza curtain. Next up, I made this button bag. Don't really love it. I spent way too much time sewing buttons onto this for it to be like mediocre. Then I made this set. I call this a schoolgirl set because it reminded me of like 60s back to school for some reason, and this is like one of my favorite things I've made. The skirt on its own is really great. I wear this a lot in summertime, and the jacket's fun too, but yeah, just quilted onto a cotton, no batting obviously. The Easter egg dress. Okay, this dress was made with kind of the same pattern as I made the Nancy dress, which was the blue triangle low-waisted dress, and the Easter egg dress is quite fun. I love it. It's shorter, it's got a very low back. I made it out of a tablecloth. Tablecloths are probably my favorite fabric to work with because they make great dresses. Very versatile. Next up, we've got another tablecloth dress. Okay, this is just a black and white gingham. The same pattern that I used to make my purple boxy off the shoulder top, but dress form. And then what's really great about this is I salvaged up all my red buttons that I could find to do a line of red buttons down the back. So many buttonholes, they're all straight. Pretty proud about that. Also made this white top, which is very, very simple, but it goes well. It goes well with a lot of things, and I do wear it a lot. So at this time, my internship was over, so I spent a couple weeks like really sewing. I didn't have like schoolwork to do quite yet. I made this dress out of a tablecloth. This reminds me of like a 50s film star for some reason. Not that I look like that. But the dress is quite good. It has a belt. I bought the belt hook thing at like a vintage store or a thrift store. I don't really remember, but I remember it's the wrong color, so I like painted it the color that I wanted it. Kind of janky, but I really do like this dress. It's again got a great line of buttons up the front, and I like the collar of it. Also, this dress is like 100% polyester, which like usually do not go for polyester fabrics because the quality of them is just so terrible. However, the dress looks great, so you don't need to have the nicest quality fabric to make a nice garment, in my opinion. This is the second shirt that I made for my fiance, and this fabric's really great. This just reminds me of Goodfellas. The vibe is like 1950s, wealthy man, maybe not up to the most legal activities. Not that I said that, but we are already in August, so we're making good progress. So when I got back to school, it took me a little bit to like reorganize myself, set up a new sewing room, etc. I've never really had a studio. I just sew out of my bedroom, which I know a lot of people can relate to. But I think a couple months back, I had made this navy blue dress, same exact pattern as my Easter egg dress. However, it didn't look good in this navy blue. The like linen in this wrinkled so badly. So I decided to chop it off and make this bow dress. So I added a big bubble skirt, cinched up like different parts of the skirt and added bows. Yeah, it speaks for itself. It's just a bow dress. Next up, so my room had blinds, but I kind of wanted to spice it up and make some curtains for myself. And so I decided to do rainbow curtains, mostly white, but little rainbow patches. And I ended up choosing this pattern. I think this is like a quilter's block, but I don't really know what it's called. I just saw it online and decided to do it. And then I French seamed everything because if it's going to be a curtain, the back of it is pretty visible, you know, it's not like a piece of clothing where that can just be hidden. So I did end up French seaming everything, and these curtains did take me like a decent amount of time, I would say. After I made the curtains, I decided to make a romper. I had this fabric that had, I don't even know how to describe it. It had like little cartoon images on it, but it was like a vintage kind of, I think the words were even in French. It had like la pluie, le jardin, all the things like that. The vibe of this romper once I made it was like if Hunter S. Thompson was a woman, this is what he would have been wearing whenever he was at the club before he and his lawyer go to Las Vegas, in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's a vibe. I don't know. It just like, it felt very 70s West desert. Yeah. Little situation where the buttons end and go into shorts. I don't know what's going on there. It's really weird because I didn't use a pattern for this. So yeah, probably not how you're supposed to do that. But again, always learning new things, which is really, really great. I also made this, like, I don't even know what to call this disco conquistador jacket. Yeah, it's got ruffles. It's got 6 layers of ruffles. It floats around when you spin in it. Overall, pretty fun. I don't wear this. I've never worn this. I just made it. I don't know even why I had that idea, but I did. Around this time, we're in like mid-September, I started making this ruffle dress, and this dress is still not done. It's not even close to done. I'm going to finish that this year, but I do have to make a wedding dress. I'm getting married. Wait, I'm not even wearing my ring. I'm getting married, but I have to make a wedding dress at some point. So yeah, stay tuned for that. The ruffle dress, not done. I'll include some photos though. Here's some photos of it. Made this shirt, nothing to say. It's quite ugly and kind of a waste of a good fabric. In late September, I bought the Roberts Wood like hex bow bag. I don't know. I bought the Roberts Wood bow bag and I love this. I made yellow, I made pink, I made a blue raspberry dum-dum, and I made this blue gingham. So I've made 4 of these in total. Still will probably make more because I love it so much. Oh my God, this is my favorite project of the year. This is actually, I know I say that about everything, but this is literally my favorite. So Molly Goddard is one of my favorite fashion designers ever. I love her work. I love everything about it. I've like looked at each of those photos on Instagram. I don't even know how many times, so many times. And so I saw this ruffle jacket earlier this year and I thought that's fabulous. Obviously can't afford it, but I'm not saying that it's not worth it to pay for that kind of thing. It's just like not in my budget. So I made one. I bought this curtain at Goodwill. I'm pretty sure mostly organza. There might be a few other things in there. I don't know a whole lot about fabrics, honestly. I'm kind of speaking out of my ass for this, but ignore that. I made this jacket. So I cut out the pieces for the jacket and then I ruffled so many 3-inch strips of fabric. I first had to serge the edges and hem the edges because you don't want raw edges on this, obviously. And then I put them all together and it was just like, it's so fabulous. I love it. It's my favorite thing to wear. It's my favorite thing that I've made. I just had so much fun. I really enjoy a project that's kind of tedious. I like having something to do with myself and with my hands. So if you can't tell, like the longer a project is going to take and the more technical work there is, the more likely I am to enjoy it. Oh wait, actually I totally forgot. The first thing that I ever made was this dress. So I used this pattern and this is still one of my favorite patterns and I did have to tweak it a lot. So I wouldn't even say, I basically just used the shoulders and the neck for this pattern. Everything else was too big, but it's good that it was too big and not too small because I could still, once I made the dress and realized it was way too big, I could cut it down. Back to October. As you might be able to tell, I'm super obsessed with the 80s. It's probably my favorite decade of fashion, which is interesting because before I started sewing, I would say I was way more into the 60s and 70s. And now that I sew, I'm actually way more into the 50s and 80s. Not really important in the grand scheme of things, but if you're interested, those are my 2 favorite decades of fashion and like the 2 decades I would go for if I was buying a pattern. I made this bubble skirt. I love this. It's got a like wavy thing going around the waist of it. I don't know. I put interfacing in it and then did 2 sides and like did some whatever, so it kind of looks like a flower. And then the bubble skirt is just a full circle skirt. Around this time, I spent a couple days putting together all of my scraps because I always save my scraps, but it gets to a certain point when I need to get rid of them. So I made this clown jumpsuit. The legs on this are actually ginormous. I can't even express how large the legs are on it unless you see it. Yeah, I didn't wear this for Halloween, so I haven't worn it because what am I gonna do? Go to class wearing this? It's crazy. So next I made this set. This is again the same curtain that I used to make that Roberts Wood bag, and so it does remind me of a blue raspberry dum-dum. However, what's exciting about this is that I thought to myself, can you put like embroidery thread on top of fabric without sewing it on? Can you just like applique it on? And you can, and it looks pretty cool. And you can also do little squares on top of it. So overall, you just have the effect of like a Kandinsky painting. I think it's pretty cool. Around this time, I also started making star garlands, and these like blew up on TikTok. People really liked the star garland for some reason. But yeah, I made a couple strands of star garland, and then because people liked it so much, I made a heart garland. So there's kind of a lot of jumping around in here. I apologize for that. I sometimes start a project and then don't get around to finishing it until months later. But in May, I designed this dress. The theme of this dress is, if Star Wars, the first 3 episodes in particular, where Padme is in that huge, super technologically advanced city-state, if those 3 episodes of Star Wars were like slightly more David Bowie inspired and like on a way lower costume budget, this is what I would be wearing if I was in that universe and if I was going to like a dinner party, not like a ball, just like a kind of casual event. Do you see do you get the picture? Anyway, I call this David Bowie inspired Star Wars, and I've made several pieces that go along with David Bowie inspired Star Wars. I would say that and like flower garden inspiration are my 2 main bodies of work, and then there's a bunch of randoms that don't go along with all of that. Anyway, you didn't need this whole explanation, but I did design this dress, and so I made the fabric for it in the summertime. I don't remember when, it took forever. It was so many squares. But I didn't do anything to the back of the squares. They were just like raw edges. And so I was like, this is not going to work out. So I ended up sewing down every single seam with a top stitch to kind of clean up the back of it, and then putting a fabric underneath it to cover up all of the raw edges. And then I made the dress, and then I put a huge tulle petticoat underneath it. And overall, I haven't done photos in it because I'm like really wanting the photos to be fabulous. And so I don't really like have the capacity. I'm not a model, obviously. I'm kind of tired of wearing my clothes in photos because we get it. You've seen enough of me. But yeah, this dress is crazy. Next, I made a super simple patchwork top just to use up my scraps. Again, sometimes I just have to do projects because I don't want to throw scraps away, but I'm tired of owning them. So I made this top. The great thing about this is probably the flower buttons that I think my grandmother gave me the flower buttons. So those are pretty cute. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of candy. I then made this pinafore dress. Or I guess a pinafore. I made this thing that goes under the bust. So it's not really a dress, but it's very cute. And then because the embroidery thread was so fun, I was like, well, let me just try that with yarn. So I bought like 3 things of yarn from Joann for like $4 each. Super cheap yarn, acrylic. I think it's called acrylic. I'm not a knitter. I wish I knew how to, but I just don't know how to do anything with yarn except for sew it onto fabric. But I made this pinafore dress. I think it's super cute. It kind of looks like bacteria, but I still think it's kind of cute. I'm giving you guys these associations and you're just going to think, her clothes look like bacteria or like blue raspberry dum-dums. But anyway, quilted jacket. Now, these jackets are everywhere. I feel like Suzanne, Bowden, I don't know, all of these like very trendy girly girl stores have a lot of these. So I was like, I'll make one. But I wanted it to be peplum, except not an even peplum, like one side more flared out than the other. And I wanted the arms to also be kind of funky, like your arms kind of look broken when you wear it. So I think I achieved that. It could be a little bit funkier. I also put in like an asymmetrical button-up effect on it. So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm always trying to make my pieces more funky, which like maybe I shouldn't because maybe they're funky enough. But I also did applique on this, so it's quilted, and then I cut out all kinds of like leaf shapes in the same fabric that the base fabric was, and then I put those all on with a zigzag stitch, but the thread that I used is contrasting, so I think it's super cool. I promise this video is almost done. I know this is probably so long at this point, but the grand finale of 2024, this isn't my last project, but this is like the project that took me the longest amount of time and that I really wrapped up at the end of the year, and that is this dress and this suit. So the brief for this is, if you were going to be kidnapped by aliens, you want to be dressed epically because you don't know where you're going. You know, you might be going somewhere really cool. You want to represent Earth well. So I designed this dress and this suit for my fiance using scraps. I really, really, really wanted to do a gradient effect. So for the dress, white into color, and then for his suit, like color into black. And I spent a long time shredding fabric. I think I like sprained something on my wrist because I tried using a rotary cutter for this, like putting everything on the board and just cutting it, but it just didn't work. My rotary cutter just like wasn't sharp enough for that, so I ended up having to use my good shears. Anyway, it took forever. So cut up everything, put it underneath tulle. This was my first corset. I did 4 toiles for this. Didn't fit as well as it could have. I should have done more toiles, but that's okay. I also put cups in this, and I think whenever you put cups into a corset, it makes things a little bit more complicated. I'm not really sure because I didn't put wire in it. Anyway, I can make a video explaining all of the problems with this dress, but we'll just not talk about that right now. So the suit and the dress are matching, and then on winter break, when I wasn't in my like apartment/studio with my sewing machine, I spent a lot of time sewing beads and sequins that I made out of aluminum. I have like TikToks and Instagram stuff about that if you're interested in how I did all of that. pretty crazy. Now we're truly into like kind of the last projects of the year. So I made this red shirt that I'm actually wearing right now. It has sea anemone sleeves. If you can't tell, it kind of looks like a sea anemone. I think it's pretty cool. It's actually just like a ruffle sewn onto the bottom of the sleeve. And then the sleeves are pretty puffy and gathered, and I have ruffles. And there's little bows on the side of it. I'll put some pictures up just so you can really tell. And then I made this dress. This kind of reminds me of something that they would be wearing in the movie Elf. The collar of this is really fun. It's also got an entire dress underneath it that's made out of blue that contrasts the pink wool that I used. Super fun. Haven't really done a whole lot of photos in that yet because it's been so cold lately and it's not really a winter dress. I don't really do winter clothes. I just do summer clothes in a winter color scheme, I would say. Next we have this romper. This also has yarn sewn onto it, but it's in different texture. It's kind of like an optical illusion of waviness, etc. texture. So yeah, I think it's really cute. This one fits me really well. I purposely made the shorts part of it huge, like comically huge. So yeah, it's funky. It's meant to be funky. Like if you're looking at this that doesn't look right, it's probably on purpose. Maybe not though. I'm still learning everything, but yeah. Then I made this Grinch dress. Now, this dress is pretty fun. I really wanted to play around with where I put my like seams and darts and everything into the bodice of it. It's made out of this really beautiful green cotton that I bought in a fabric store. It's not secondhand, but most of this has been secondhand, I will say. And then I have a thrifted curtain underneath it all. So it's like this watermelon kind of. Actually, the color scheme is exactly like a watermelon. But anyway, as far as honorable mentions, so these are things that maybe I didn't make all of, maybe I haven't finished yet, just stuff that is not a full garment, but could be something. I don't know. I made these oven mitts for my future mother-in-law because I feel like oven mitts are always gross for everybody. Everybody always needs new oven mitts. So I just made these. They're quilted, 100% cotton batting because if you use a polyester batting, you could really screw things up. So yeah, I made several like embroidered patches because I'm going to be doing a poodle skirt at some point in the future. Maybe not even this year because I've got so many things going on this year. I made a lot of patches to put on this one day poodle skirt. I also made this shirt. Well, I put letters on this shirt that I got at Goodwill, and it says float like a Cadillac because Cars is my favorite movie. And I feel like that's a good motto to go by. So anyway. If you're still here, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you being here. I love to sew and I love to talk about it, and I think that all my friends and family in real life are probably a little bit sick of me talking about it with them. However, I do have some exciting things lined up for 2025, so if you want to stick around, I'll be making a wedding dress. I'll hopefully be starting a small business because I just don't need this many clothes, and I would really love to be making pieces that are like of a quality that's sellable. I obviously am starting a YouTube channel to talk about sewing. I'm also hoping that if everything goes to plan, after I graduate college, maybe I can sew more, so you can see even more fun, exciting projects. Again, thank you all so much for being here. If you're interested in my sewing and my projects, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at Jane's Dresses. I hope you have a lovely day.